Hey everybody, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. Glad you guys could make it in tonight. Everybody's gonna end up on the replay because I know you will. Come on in tonight and let's have a discussion. Let's have a fireside chat, as they say. Let's discuss some topics that I think are very important to discuss. That's not usually discussed um, around these topics, especially what my channel's about. But that's why I created these lives so we can talk about things surrounding uh, the channel's theme, which is tools, home improvement, and all that good stuff. And I promote the trades heavily on this channel because um, I think it's a way out for a lot of people. I think the trades are a way out for a lot of people, and unfortunately, our young people are not really seeing that. They're distracted by gaming. They're distracted by all these other things, right? The internet. Um, well, if you're missing the boat, right? There's a lot of opportunity there. The internet is, it's not as stable as you would think, and so if you pick up a skill outside of the internet, well, But I get it. You don't have to clock in or nothing like that. You can just jump on your computer. Hey, I do it too. So I'm not mad at you for thinking that way, but you know, there are other options out there to help build our communities, and that's what this channel is about. Ultimately, right? It's about building community, and you can only build community with good models, good templates, and good examples, right? So that's what this live is going to be about tonight. We're going to talk about, like it says in the title, the largest African American owned construction company in the United States, and the story behind them, right? Which I thought was very interesting and can be very inspiring. And they are a model. Now, hey, I know everybody doesn't have the same path, but at the end of the day, they stuck it out, right? There are certain principles that are universal that no matter who it is, I don't care what your excuses are, you stick to those principles, you will get to where you need to go. Hey, Very Good Life Notes, congrats on you have 20,000 subscribers. Yeah, thank you for that, Very Good Life Notes. And I appreciate everybody watching now and in the replay for the 20,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. Let's shoot for 100, right? Let's shoot for 100 to get this message out. Help me do that. So you can go ahead and like and subscribe right now. Wouldn't hurt either. Very Good Life Notes says good to have diversity in earning streams. Absolutely, right? Once again, this is not just about pigeonholing people and saying you have to do this, you have to do that. But um, you know, don't neglect the opportunity there, because you do need tradespeople. You do need people to build stuff. You do need people to build the infrastructure to even have your internet, right? So we got to keep that in mind, right? All right, so let's dive into it. I'm not without further ado. I'm going to dive into it and talk about the story of the largest African American owned construction company in the country. Okay, so if you're interested, tune on in. So let's see here. And by the way, guys, jump on in that chat. It's not going to hurt. Ask questions. Uh, that's what this is all about. It's interactive. It's not just about me spewing information out there. I want it to be these lives to be a two-way street, not just me talking. So I love to interact with you guys. So jump on in the chat. Don't let Perry Life Notes be the only one. Okay. So let's see here. Where should I start? I was doing the research on this. I pulled up a couple of decent articles on this company. So where should I start? Okay, so it says, and I'm quoting, guys. All right, I'm going to jump back and forth throughout these articles so I can get so I can be as accurate as I can. So it says, without further ado, McKissack and McKissack. That's the name of the company. McKissack and McKissack is a firm that started in Nashville in 1905, right? And it's fast forward to today, it's thriving under the leadership of President and CEO Cheryl McKissack Daniel. Okay, and she acquired the family business from her mother, Leatrice McKissack, in 2000 as the sole owner. Okay, so that's one thing I want to drive home with this live today is the importance of a succession plan. Remember, it started in 1905. Okay, that's over 100 years it's been around. So they definitely had a succession plan, because a lot of times in certain communities and in the African American community, there's no succession plan. When I say succession plan, I'm talking about handing down your assets to your heirs, your daughters, granddaughters, and you know, they hold on to their assets as long as they can and build, not just hold on to it, but actually grow what they have. And that's what she did. Cheryl McKissack Daniel. I think she has a twin sister named Daryl as well. And they grew the business is thriving right now, but it didn't start that way. Remember, it started in 1905. That was a whole different climate in the United States when it came to African Americans. Not that it changed that much today. There's still certain attitudes that still exist, but certain barriers definitely have been removed, and so that I'm sure that helped to accelerate the growth of the business, right? But nonetheless, it's still a struggle. So let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back in time a little bit and see how they started. Okay, let's go back in time and see how they started. Okay. I said the company was founded by Moses III and Calvin, right? Its roots date back to his grandfather, Moses McKissack I. Now, Moses was born in 1790. Okay, that's relatively speaking, that's a long time ago. Okay, it's over 200 years ago, guys. 1790. He was of the West African Ashanti tribe. I've heard of the Ashantis. That's a tribe over there on the continent, and so that's where Moses was born. But he was sold into slavery to a prominent contractor, a guy by the name of William McKissack of North Carolina, and he took on, of course, his name. Right? That's what they would do. They would take away your identity and slap their identity onto you, and now you have their name, and that's pretty common among the African American population. Actually, most African people of African descent in the diaspora, and by diaspora I mean outside of Africa, they have the names of their former captors or enslavers, and so that's where that came from. Okay, so it says Moses, okay, of the Ashanti tribe, he learned his skill as he was trained to make bricks and work as a master builder. Now, yeah, okay, let's stop right there for a second. Where did he learn this? Because sometimes when I read these articles, and I don't want to necessarily go off on a tangent, but you have to sometimes question the accuracy and the motive. I don't know who wrote this. It says it's a Tennessean article. Okay, it says he learned he was trained to make bricks and work as a master builder. But this is one of the facts that is conveniently left out of history books in the West, is that a lot of the enslaved individuals already were master builders themselves on the continent, right? The craftsmen, even down to metallurgy and welding and stuff like that, they already existed on the continent. Okay, so sometimes when you phrase these things like, okay, he learned his skill, he was taught by, no, where? Okay, he wasn't necessarily taught by Mr. McKissack. Matter of fact, some of these individuals were captured strategically because of their prowess, because of their knowledge, because of them being masters of their craft already, and because the motive was to take a certain group of individuals and transplant them in another part of the world to work, right, as enslaved individuals. They were strategically handpicked to a degree, right? Say, okay, that's the builders. We want those people. All right. So I would assume that that Moses was already skilled. Okay, he wasn't necessarily trained, but he was skilled, and he just took his skill and applied it to what the building style of his captors, what they wanted. Right. So that aside, it says at some point Moses was freed and then was able to sell his bricks. In 1822, Moses married his wife Miriam, and they had 14 children. Moses wasn't playing. Their ninth child, Gabriel Moses II, was trained by his father in building houses and continued the family trade. Okay. All right. So once again, even way back then, he's handing down his skill set to his son, right? Because he knows this is going to serve him. It's going to feed his son's family for the rest of his life. And if his son teaches his sons, Moses is the first grandson, the same trade, and is going to feed them, and so on, so on, so forth. And we see that has happened all the way down to the daughter till today, Cheryl Kisak and her sister. Okay. So he said, Moses II, the son, took the trade and added an extra skill of his own. So Moses II, right, the son of an enslaved man, or well, freed man. He was free now. I don't know the circumstances of how that happened, but anyway, the son of a former enslaved individual, his father, Moses took it upon himself to develop another skill. He became a master carpenter as well, right? So, it was all about getting skills, just like I push on this channel. It's all about getting those skills up, right? Getting those skills up and not just keeping it to yourself, but teaching your children, or teaching your community the same trade, right? I said he built spiral staircases and made the gingerbread finishes on the Maxwell House Hotel, formerly located at 4th and Church. Now, and has anybody ever heard of the Maxwell Hotel? Maxwell House Hotel? I think it's some famous hotel somewhere. I don't know if it's is it in Tennessee or something? Any Tennesseans in the chat, let me know. All right, so let's see here. Now, his first name, okay, Moses II first name was Gabriel. All right, so Gabriel was his first name. So it says Gabriel then passed the skills on to his son, Moses III. But listen to this. Moses III was skilled in the art of building by the age of 11. So I guess it's in the blood, right? I mean, they started him out early. Okay, so all right. And that's when everything started to blossom there. So Moses III was born in Pulaski, Tennessee on May 8th, 1879. And after receiving his education in the segregated public schools in Pulaski, he worked with his father for a time. Now, I was looking at some other videos on the McKissacks. Shout out to Earn Your Leisure. They had her on about 8 months ago, Cheryl McKissack, and she was being interviewed by the guys at Earn Your Leisure. Yeah, so I remember her saying that Pulaski was where the Ku Klux Klan was originated. There, so you have to understand the times. This is 1879. Okay, so this is they came. The climate, was rife with what, the big R word, racism, right? And it wasn't just the type where you call people names. It's the type you hanging people on trees and stuff, and just for existing. So Moses III, okay, already skilled at the art of building by the age of 11. He went on to receive his education in segregated public schools, and he worked for his father for a time. In 1890, he was hired by a Pulaski architect as an apprentice. So he already knew this was the path he was going. Focus, right? That's another lesson. He already knew. And of course, he could have, I'm sure he had the support of his family to keep him focused, right? He wasn't just out in the street, guy. Listen, young brothers. He wasn't just out in the street aimlessly wandering around. And I get it. Sometimes the father's not in the home because of a whole bunch of reasons. But that's the importance of family support, to keep the children focused, keep them on the right path. And that's how you build generational wealth. If you have a bunch of, unfocused, wayward children with no direction, you can't expect to build, have generational wealth in the future, because nobody's thinking about that. Everybody's doing their own thing. Nobody has guidance. Nobody has a sense of commitment, a sense of loyalty to the family. And no judgment, but that's unfortunately that's what happens when families are split up. Um, so he was hired by this guy, a Pulaski architect, and he was responsible for drawing designs and plans. Okay, as well as working with the construction business. So his excellent skill, meaning that he was very skilled at it, apparently, didn't go unnoticed as he eventually became a construction superintendent for homes in Pulaski, Mount Pleasant, Columbia, and in Decatur and Alabama. They're talking about Decatur, Georgia, I guess. So yeah. So even what I just talked about is so jam packed with principles that we can take for ourselves. Get a skill, right? Hone that skill, whatever that skill is. I don't know. You can be a computer engineer. You can be an accountant. You can be a florist. You know, you can be a cook. You can be whatever, right? Hone that skill and make something of it, right? Don't just grow it as big as you can. And I'm not saying you have to chase money all the time, but why not look at it as hey, I have this skill. I think it's my obligation, my duty to give as much as my gift to the world as I can before I'm out of here, right? So, and the byproducts of that could be wealth, could be, it doesn't necessarily have to be wealth, but it could be, it could be something very beneficial to the community. I mean, it's going to feed you. I mean, at least do something that's feed you, right? So, took a skill, and so that's what we can learn from this. And if you have kids or even people in the community, don't have to be your kids, but find people in the community that you can pass the skill on to who have the same interests as that, who like the same things that you like, right? Or you can see potential in them where you can guide them, right? That's the purpose that's why you were given that skill. Okay. And I think that's where true fulfillment happens, when you're able to give away what you have, right? As they say, leave everything on the table. That's saying. All right. So says his excellent skill didn't go unnoticed. So obviously he's good. So in 1905, Nashville became the new home for Moses. So he moved to Nashville, and he came there to build a home for somebody, a professor, a guy named by the name of Granberry Jackson, who happened to be the dean of architecture and engineering. This eventually led to building more homes for Vandy faculty. I guess he was a Vandy professor. Is Vandy a place? I don't know. Somebody tell me. Somebody from Tennessee. Is that a place? Okay. And then he started his own business after that. So see, that's what happens, guys. When you get out there and ply your trade to the best of your ability, you will get noticed. Even him being an African American man, living in that climate back then, you can't deny greatness. I don't care how racist you are. Matter of fact, that pisses off a lot of racists when you're great and you're the object of their racism. So obviously this guy, Granberry Jackson, this professor, the guy was shining. Okay, he shined, right? And when something shines, everybody sees it. The haters, the lovers, all that, everybody sees it. So in 1900, so he built the home, and he got more deals, more contracts to build more homes because he was good, word of mouth, of course, and he was recommended, I'm sure. And he started his own thing, as he should have. He started his own business. So in 1905, he officially started his construction firm. His first major commission came in 1908 when he built the Carnegie Library. I don't have any photos, guys. I was going to put up some photos, but these are very prominent landmarks that probably a lot of people don't know that African American man built, just like they built a whole bunch of things a lot of people don't know about, or did not, or don't want to know about. His first major commission came in 1908 when he built the Carnegie Library at Fisk University. Okay, so that's the first major structure designed by an African American architect, a black architect in this country. Okay, so first major accomplishment. All right, and then they have the actual newspaper clipping article of the groundbreaking. No, I don't know if it was a groundbreaking. Yeah, the groundbreaking of it happened at 4 p.m. I don't know what date was that. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so he did that. Okay, so some of the projects over the course of the next 10 years included dormitories at Roger Williams University, Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee, buildings on the campus of Turner Normal College, several homes in the colonial revival style, including George Hubbard's in 1920. Who was George Hubbard? Somebody look him up for me. Put it in the chat. So Moses had a brother. Okay, the plot thickens. Moses had a brother named Calvin. So Calvin moved to Nashville to help his brother build. And okay, let's hold up. Let's stop right there. That's another lesson we need to learn in the community. A lot of times, we're doing our thing and we may be successful. One sibling may be successful. The other sibling may be successful. The parent may be successful. And a lot of times we're just doing our own thing, right? It's like, okay, I'm doing my own thing over here. And it's almost like, and they're doing their own thing over there. And it's almost like competition. Like who's going to best each other? Who's going to, or even if it's not that, it's like, okay, I'm by myself. I'm away. I'm not thinking of joining forces with my family, that type of thing. That mentality has to change. You cannot build generational wealth that way, right? You can't build communities like that. That's not how it was. We were not like that in the past. Something happened. We got hit with some serious bombs where we started to see each other as competition when we should see each other as, be in cooperation with each other, right? So let that be a lesson there. So his brother picked up whatever he was doing and moved to Nashville to help his brother. Now Moses may have called him out there and said, "Hey, bro, I need you to help me with this. It's getting kind of hectic here. I need your expertise." Because the brother came from Texas, right? And the brother was skilled as well now, in as an architect, building churches and dormitories, and based on what I heard, the brother was at times they built. I don't know if the brother was doing this. Calvin was building churches and dormitories for a time at cost, but I know I heard in the story that at some point they were building these things at cost, for charity and stuff like that. So a little bit of background on Calvin. Calvin received a degree from Fisk University, and both brothers had architectural degrees, right? But they obtained these degrees through correspondence courses from MIT. Yeah, MIT. You ever heard of MIT, that famous school out there? I think it's Boston, is in Boston or something like that. And they did it through correspondence. Why they do it through correspondence, I don't know. We can only venture to guess, right? We can only venture to guess what the reasons were. Let me see. Let me go back to chat and see what's going on here. Okay, West Africa, Ghana, Paragraph Life Notes chiming in. All right, so let's see here. Let's continue. So you got two brothers, smart, intelligent, skilled builders. You know what I mean? What we need. This is, this makes me, what I'm saying, I get kind of excited reading about these guys because these were master builders, right? It's in their blood. It's in their blood, and they're doing it way back then. Way back then, in those times where walking down the street would have got us killed if we looked at a wrong person. You know what I mean? But they did it through correspondence course. They got their architectural degrees. It says Calvin also taught as an instructor of architecture at Tennessee A&I State College when he came to Nashville. So he was an instructor as well. He's giving the knowledge back out there. Okay, I'm sure he had to get paid as well. A few years after that, he joined the faculty at Pearl High School as director of the Industrial Arts Department. So he was head over the trades, man, over the trades department. It says in the 1920s, the McKissack brothers got a few clients, okay, in Nashville, but also throughout the state, right, in the southeast of Tennessee. So they were doing their thing, okay, and you got to give it to them way back then. So sometimes we think in this climate today that we got a lot of things going against us, but you have to understand back then they had a bunch of stuff going against them that we don't necessarily It's not as, like it was. So at the end of the day, regardless of what's coming against you, you got to, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Okay. They were the first registered architects, believe it or not, in Tennessee. Believe it or not, they were the first registered architects. As in 1921, the state professional registration law became effective, and the brothers were eventually allowed to take the certification exam, but they were denied. They were allowed, but then they were denied at first. Okay, now after passing that exam, their licenses were denied them as well. Hey, they passed the exam and they wouldn't even give them their licenses. Absolutely ridiculous. Only thing that saved them is that the national news outlets put a spotlight on the story, shined a light on that situation. And I guess people didn't want to look bad. Something kind of like today in the politically correct climate of today. You don't want to look bad, so you better do right. So they finally became the first registered architects in the state. A year later, Calvin officially joined his brother, Gabriel, Moses, and McKissack was formed. So it became the first professional African-American architectural firm. And they were later licensed in 22 more states. Okay. Nothing beats focus, guys. The only thing that would have took those guys out is death. And it wasn't ordained for them to go out like that. They had to make history. They had to do that. They were here. So, yeah. All right. So it says their portfolio grew over the years, blossomed, boom. Okay. And it says the style that they built in was mostly a colonial revival style. Okay. And they built a lot of homes and churches and educational facilities around Nashville. And then they got some pictures and stuff over here. Like I said, you guys can do the research on that and look at what they built. They also received contracts for work in the late 1930s. It says WPA work. I don't know exactly what that stands for. Makes me kind of curious. What's WPA work, guys? I'll look it up. So it kept them busy after the Depression. All right. So, after the Depression, it was crazy, but they were working. They had work. I said in the 1930s as well, during a time when there were about 45 American architects in the country. McKissack and McKissack remained one of the only firms owned and operated by African Americans in the South. Okay, so there were about 45, African American architects, but they had one of the only firms owned and operated. Right, so they had a firm. It wasn't just them out there trying to work for somebody. How many do they have today? I think I looked that up too. Let's see. Where was that? All right, it says I did the research. It says right now there's about 121,603 architects in the U.S. right now. Guess how many of them are African American? Somebody want to take a wild guess in the chat? Remember, it was 45. It was 45 in, let's see, where were we? It was 45 back then in the 30s. How many do you think are there now? Let's see. Where was I? 2,492. I don't know. I think it should be a little more than that, but that's where it is right now. So it's not 45, but it could definitely be more. So if you want to make a statement, if you want to do something to make a difference, why not look into architecture if you like that, if you like that field? And I'm sure it's a very interesting trade too. I know a couple architects, and it's an interesting field of work. Okay, the whole design part of it, and all that stuff. Okay, so where were we here? All right, so almost done, guys. Hold on for a minute. It says Mm. They designed several buildings, okay, that are on the National Register of Historic Places, and the firm best became known for their Art Deco style of buildings. Okay, so they got into Art Deco. Okay, so they were one of the pioneers of Art Deco, I guess. And in 1942, the firm received a major national contract to build uh, the 99th Pursuit Squadron Air Base at Tuskegee, Alabama, making this the largest contract where ever granted by the federal government to an African American company. So, McKissack and McKissack is very well established, as you can see. Okay, they also worked on several federal housing projects, including College Hill development in Northwest Nashville. Moses was appointed to the White House Conference on Housing Problems during FDR's administration. So you're talking about three generations of master builders, as they say. Okay, you got newspaper articles all over the place back then about them. So fast forward, Moses in 1952, he died at the age of 73, and Calvin took over as the president and general manager of the company. It said in his honor, in honor of his brother's work over the years and his contributions to the city. They named the school after Moses. School was already under construction when he passed away. When the firm working on it to replace the old Clifton Elementary on 40th Avenue. It's known as McKissack Middle School today, and it's located in 915 38th Avenue North. Okay. So they got photos some more photos of the construction of the school. Okay, when he died. Shows a picture of a typing class full of beautiful African American girls sitting in front of their typewriters. Says Calvin passed away in 1968. That's the brother now. We talked about Moses passed away. Now Calvin died in 68. And the next family member to take the helm, okay, was his youngest son, William DeBerry McKissack. So under his leadership, I guess the business continued to thrive. And by 1975, they completed over 3,000 building projects, including about 2,000 churches. So in 83, something happened. All right, William, right, the youngest son of Moses, had a stroke and passed away. I mean, I don't know, how old was he? I don't know. So that put the company in the hands of Moses' wife, okay, Latrice, and it says losing her husband was hard enough for her, but gaining the leadership role of a major company at the same time was very intimidating. So she's like, man, I don't know how to run this big old company that you left me. All right. Who knows? She could have been a housewife. I don't just want to say she was just a housewife, but I'm sure she was, of course she was caught off guard by the death of her husband. And not just the death of her husband, but leaving a gigantic company here in the hands of of her, where she didn't know, but it says she did it. But of course she was. They came hounding. There were several offers to buy the company from up under her, from other firms. I'm sure they came up, but I'm so glad she stuck to her guns, and she did not sell. And that's another lesson, guy. The money. It's not always about the money. So sometimes you got to think of legacy, right? I get it. Sometimes you got to think of legacy, and in the African American community, there's not too many legacies, right? So this is what I mean when I talk about the model, the template, right? Not just to crank out the dollars, but to crank out a legacy, crank out, kids and their kids and their kids. Okay, so you can keep the legacy going, right? And build the community as it should be, right? So it says today, William and Latrice's daughter, Cheryl McKissack Daniel, and represents the fifth generation president and CEO of the legacy business that started with Moses. Okay. And it says in 2000, Cheryl purchased and reestablished McKissack and McKissack as the sole owner of the family business. And she purchased it from her mother, I think. Right. making it the oldest minority and woman-owned design and construction firm in the U.S. Okay, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But there were some things I learned about Cheryl and her strategy, which I thought I'll share with you guys on how she runs this firm, right? This legacy firm in the African American community. So what I like about it is, this whole thing is they have mastered the art, if you want to call it an art as such, of generational wealth. They have mastered the art of generational wealth, right? They had a succession plan in place. And they executed on that succession plan. Somebody was there to take up the helm. Nobody ran, as far as I know, away from it, right? They knew they took the weight of the responsibility and upon themselves, and they held on to it and they handled it. Okay. Says, okay, here's another thing about her strategy that I did the research on, what I thought was very very interesting. It says she focused on the clients, right? She didn't go after everybody. She went out after a specific client that that she knew that would make a difference in the bottom line of the business, right? People that could pay the bills. Okay, let's see here. Schools, the Port Authority, and the Dormitory Authority. Dormitory Authority, they build hospitals, they build technical centers, higher educational housing, like college dorms and stuff like that. She focused on people like that, and which was a smart move, I thought. And then of course, while she was focusing on that, building relationships. That's another thing she did. She focused on building relationships, meaning that she attended a lot of meetings with a lot of people that probably didn't want her in the room, right? But she did that, and she built these relationships, and that's what sustained the business. And she also said, like, the sales cycle could have been like 2 years in some instances, right? From the time she pitched her services to the completion of the project, it could have been 2 years. I think she said the latest one was 8 years. It was an 8-year project, $1 billion project, and that took that long. But that's how it is in construction, right? It's not overnight. So at the end of the day, you have a African American owned construction company, largest and oldest in the country, ran by a woman, okay, who knows what she's doing. And that should be an example to anybody out there who's having aspirations of building something for themselves and their family, and have a mindset of legacy versus just, I'm going to sell it one day, versus an exit strategy. You know what I mean? So anyway, guys, let's see here. Just thought I'd bring that to you. Hopefully inspired some people to hear that. I didn't get into all the details, but anyway, I appreciate you guys coming on. Hope you got something from that. Don't forget to go to calibrate.com, support the channel, guys. We got some great products over there. The holidays coming up, and it allows me to come back on these lives and on the airwaves to give you some good instructional content as well as conversational content as well. So anyway, guys, hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.